Before the world went digital, there was Radio Shack, a place where technology wasn't just sold, it was lived, where kids got their first taste of electronics, where hobbyists built the future in their garages, and where America fell in love with gadgets. But how did this empire of innovation crumble? Why do we still miss it decades later? This is the story of Radio Shack. For those of us who remember, Radio Shack wasn't just a store, it was where the future lived. But before the TRS-80s and walls of components we loved, it all started in 1921 with two brothers and a simple idea. Theodore and Milton Deutschmann opened a tiny Boston shop selling radio parts. Back when technology was something you fixed, not replaced. The magic really began in 1962 when Tandy Corporation, a leather company of all things, saw potential in those shelves of vacuum tubes and resistors. Little did they know this unassuming start would spark America's electronics revolution and create the iconic store we all remember from its 70s and 80s heyday. Radio Shack in the 1970s and 1980s wasn't just a store, it was a cultural phenomenon that shaped how America interacted with technology. For those of us who grew up during this era, walking into a Radio Shack was like entering a wonderland of possibilities. The distinctive red logo became synonymous with innovation, and nearly every shopping mall and main street across America had one of these electronic playgrounds. Walking into a Radio Shack during its heyday was an experience unlike any other. The air carried that distinctive scent of new electronics, a mix of warm circuit boards and plastic that still triggers nostalgia today. Every inch of space was packed with possibilities. Walls lined with components, glass cases showcasing the latest gadgets, and demonstration units begging to be tried. What set Radio Shack apart was how it spoke to both experts and beginners. Serious engineers could find specialized parts for complex projects, while curious kids could get their start with simple electronics kits. The staff were true enthusiasts who could explain anything from antenna theory to stereo systems, a far cry from today's big box store employees. The stores became community hubs where technology came alive. On any given Saturday, you might see hobbyists comparing projects, families marveling at the newest computers we'll discuss later, or teenagers testing the limits of those massive boom boxes. It was a place where technology felt approachable and exciting, before the digital age made everything seem so distant and abstract. Radio Shack's real genius was anticipating America's technological cravings. When Citizens Band radios exploded in popularity, entire sections dedicated to CB equipment appeared almost overnight. As home computing began its revolution, they positioned themselves at the forefront. But we'll explore that pivotal chapter in more detail when we discuss their famous TRS-80 computer. This was retail, as education and entertainment combined. The stores hosted workshops, published project books, and even had their own line of quality electronics under the Realistic brand. They didn't just sell products, they sold the joy of technology itself. The golden age of Radio Shack represents something we've largely lost today. That tangible sense of wonder when holding a new gadget, the satisfaction of building something yourself, and the human connection that came from face-to-face advice about resistors, receivers, and recording equipment. It was a time when technology still had mystery, and Radio Shack held the keys to understanding it all. Now here's something every Radio Shack regular remembers: the Battery Club. For just a few dollars a year, you'd get fresh batteries delivered monthly, right when your toys and gadgets needed them most. That little membership card did more than power devices. It powered customer loyalty. People would come for their free batteries and leave with new gadgets. Pure retail genius. Though in the end, this very success became a weakness. While the world moved to rechargeable tech, Radio Shack kept chasing battery sales. But in its prime, that Battery Club card was a golden ticket to the electronic good life. Before Amazon wishlists, we had RadioShack Catalogs, those glorious phone book-thick treasure maps of technology. Every holiday season, they'd arrive like gifts themselves, pages crammed with every gadget a kid could dream of. What made them special was how they spoke to everyone. Serious engineers could study spec sheets for professional gear, while kids flipped straight to the science fair section. Those pages didn't just sell products, they sold possibilities. The catalogs also tracked America's tech evolution. Early editions featured CB radios and pocket calculators. By the 80s, home computers dominated the covers. Each year's edition became a time capsule of what cutting edge meant for regular families. For those of us who couldn't afford everything we wanted, the catalogs became dog-eared fantasy guides. We'd memorize prices, compare features, and yes, strategically leave them open on important pages around birthday season. In today's digital world, it's hard to explain the magic of those paper wish books, but for a generation, they were more than shopping. They were inspiration, education, and just maybe, the start of something brilliant. In the 1970s, before smartphones or social media, RadioShack fueled America's CB radio obsession. Their stores became hubs where truckers, teens, and homemakers all discovered the magic of instant communication. Realistic brand CB radios flew off shelves, from $50 handhelds to powerful base stations with antennas that dotted rooftops nationwide. The lingo, 10 for good buddy, entered pop culture as these crackling voice boxes connected communities. Unlike restricted ham radio, CB gave everyone a voice. During the 1973 oil crisis, it became a vital information network. Though cell phones eventually replaced them, for one glorious decade, RadioShack's CB section was where America first experienced wireless connection. In 1977, RadioShack changed computing forever with the TRS-80. At $589, this black and white marvel brought personal computers to mainstream America for the first time. That cassette tape storage and chunky keyboard launched countless tech careers. Kids would spend hours typing programs from magazines, listening anxiously as the tape player loaded their creations with those distinctive electronic warbles. Affectionately nicknamed the Trash 80, it may have been primitive next to Apple's offerings, but RadioShack's genius was making computing approachable. Their stores became community hubs where curious owners learned basic programming together. While often overshadowed in computer history, the TRS-80 proved PCs weren't just for corporations. They could be tools for education, creativity, and pure fun. For an entire generation, this was the machine that started their digital journey. Beyond computers, RadioShack was a treasure trove of cutting-edge gadgets that defined decades of tech culture. Their shelves overflowed with innovations that felt like magic at the time. Remember their realistic brand stereo systems? Those massive wooden consoles with glowing dials that became the centerpiece of every teen's bedroom. They carried the first cordless phones that actually worked, early digital watches that felt like spy gear, and those ubiquitous red LED clocks that decorated nightstands across America. Every visit promised some new wonder, maybe a voice changer for prank calls, or a metal detector for backyard adventures. What made these gadgets special wasn't just the technology, it was how RadioShack made the future feel accessible. That $29 electronic kit might be someone's first step toward an engineering degree. In today's world of sleek, sealed devices, we've lost something special. That thrill of holding tomorrow's technology in your hands today, complete with instruction manuals you actually needed to read. RadioShack didn't just sell gadgets, they sold wonder. The 2000s marked RadioShack's slow fade into irrelevance. That iconic red sign still hung over stores, but the magic was gone. While Best Buy dazzled customers with home theaters and Apple stores reinvented retail, RadioShack became trapped in its own past. Aisles once packed with cutting-edge components now overflowed with phone cases and cheap cables. Their desperate rebrands, the Shack, focus on cell phones, only highlighted the identity crisis. They were too late to e-commerce, too timid to fully embrace maker culture's revival, and too outdated to compete on price or experience. The final humiliation? filing for bankruptcy twice. By 2017, over 4,000 stores closed. That same year, a single Bitcoin was worth more than RadioShack's entire stock. Yet, in those empty storefronts lingered the ghost of what once was. Not just a retailer, but America's gateway to the digital future. A reminder that even giants can fall when they stop inventing tomorrow. Whether you came for batteries, gadgets, or just to browse, RadioShack was part of our lives. A place where technology felt exciting, not confusing. Where every visit brought something new to discover. What's your favorite memory? Maybe your first walkie-talkie? That TRS-80 demo in the corner? Share your story below. Let's take one more trip down memory lane together. Thanks for watching, for subscribing, and for sharing your memories in the comments. If you enjoyed the trip down memory lane, be sure to share this video with your friends. Let's keep the nostalgia going.